Electric Fire Book 2 Hidden Chains Chapter 13.
A day had passed. I was feeling a pit in my stomach, as in an uneasy feeling was taking over me. I didn't go to Robotnik. I knew he was on his way to this town. Something felt off. One of my senses were telling me, but I couldn't exactly do anything at the moment. Tom and Maddie were home this time. Tom didn't seem to have any work to be done at the time, or maybe he just wanted to stay home for the day, now that I was back. Tails even came over. He mainly came over to return Sonic's last 2 rings. I stayed out of it though. I really didn't want to intrude on their friendship. I stayed downstairs with Tom and Maddie, while Tails and Sonic spoke. Though Tails seemed happy to see me, he hugged me when he first stepped through the door. Tom had opened it, but I stood behind him. It was nice to see Tails again, though I didn't exactly see him much before now. I regret making the choice I had made. Seeing Tails hug me felt a bit strange. We barely knew one another, but it seems almost losing me took a toll on the young two-tailed fox as well. After the embrace, I went to the kitchen. Maddie was there at the kitchen table, looking up something on a device. Tom followed me. I was curious about the rectangular device Maddie had. It was different from the technology I was used to. It wasn't a computer, but smaller. I didn't ask about it. I pulled up a seat and sat beside her to see what she was doing. Tom stood aside, watching me from a corner of the room. Maddie took notice of me. She just smiled and laughed to herself, probably thinking my expression was adorable or something. She clicked on something. Then the screen backed out of whatever she was looking up.
This is an iPad, Shadow. It's kind of like a computer, but smaller.
She then showed me a few of her apps, games. She didn't have much though. Only Words with Friends and Among Us. She decided to teach me how to play the Among Us game. She said it was somewhat of a newer app.
Sonic's point of view.
It was so great seeing Tails again. I was just tidying up my room a bit, trying to keep it clean, since me and Shadow made it a bit of a mess earlier when we were playing Monopoly. I borrowed it from downstairs. Tom kept a few board games in the closet. I was just trying to gather up the pieces. We didn't exactly play by the rules. I'll admit, it was still fun though. I mean, if we landed on the go to jail space, well, we'd jump over it and instead, well, I picked up one of the extra pieces and put it in jail and say it was Robotnik. Then Shadow asked,
What if he gets the get out of jail card?
Well, that's how the mess happened. I threw all the cards. He'll never find it now. He nervously laughed a bit. It was a silly game after all. Tails helped me pick up the cards. It was easy to clean up. At least, we still had everything else together. Once we were done, well, Tails gave me back the rings Longclaw gave me.
Well, I fixed them for you.
He stated. Then I looked at him, wondering what he meant. But then he continued.
They shouldn't vanish if you use them now. I mean, you can pick them up once the portal is gone, so you can use the same ring over and over again without worrying about losing the ring.
I was shocked, but also amazed. Then I also felt a hint of sadness. Longclaw gave me her most precious item she had. It was the only thing I had to remember her by. But I felt grateful that Tails had found a way to make them last so I wouldn't ever lose them. Longclaw trusted me with them. I said nothing. I then hugged Tails for the longest time. He returned the embrace. It took a minute before I could reply. Thank you so much. It was all I could say as I was being overwhelmed by emotion again. I kept myself from laying off any electricity though. I didn't want to accidentally cause harm to the young fox. Tails broke the hug, but then he decided to talk about Shadow.
So, what's the deal on Shadow? I mean, shouldn't we get a hold of Rouge and Omega?
I just shook my head. Nah, I don't think that's a good idea right now. I mean, they're with Gun. If word gets out that he's back, well, they might come after him again. After all, they took everything from him before. Well, they'll most likely put him in isolation or worse if they catch him. I think it's best to tell Rouge and Omega when they get a break and come visit. I know Rouge would like to apologize to him, but right now isn't a good time. He just came back, but that Robotnik guy is back in town. Tails took the reply I gave him pretty well, it seemed.
Alright, I get it. Shadow for now needs to say a secret. I just hope Rouge will visit when she catches a break from Gun.
I had to agree with Tails. Rouge hasn't been seen since Shadow had disappeared. Only time I saw her was when she wanted to apologize for having Shadow not want to be saved. She really cared about him. She felt terrible for turning on him when he needed her the most. I tried to rescue him before he fell, but he didn't want to be saved. He wanted a better future for himself. He's been hurt for so long. He needed to relax, but now with Robotnik back in town, it wasn't going to be easy.
Robotnik's point of view.
We were getting close, but the truck was almost out of fuel. Seems Stone forgot to fill it all the way last time we were at a gas station. First thing we did was get gas, once arriving in the small town of Green Hills. I had a feeling that creature was still here, even while I was on that mushroom planet. Seems my theory was correct, since Metal had brought back footage of the hedgehog that had beaten me, but now I have two tricks up my sleeve for him. Metal and the Shadow android were in standby mode for most of the trip. Since they've been in working function, both were awaiting orders. But for now, I didn't have any commands for them to achieve. I was still working on a plan in my mind at the time.